Hey, what's going on, guys? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about UFC fighters that I question how they're still on the roster as of September of 2025. Now, I typically don't like to use the words they should be cut from the sport, but I look at some of these fighters and go, yeah, how has the UFC not let them go? All right. They're on massive loss streaks. They're not looking any sort of like legitimate prospect or anything like that. And it feels like the UFC is just wasting roster spots to keep certain fighters for some apparent reason that I'm not entirely sure about. So today I'm going to be going over 10 fighters that I feel are kind of just sticking around in the UFC. Right? They don't really add any sort of value, yet for some reason the UFC is deciding to keep these guys. And without wasting any more time, though, I'm gonna jump straight into the video. All right, first off, we're gonna talk about Junior Tafa. He is practically the inspiration to this video, and the reason I chose to bring him up first is because for some reason the UFC wanted to put him as the co-main event of the Perth Fight Night card next week. Right. Fortunately, that didn't go through because I think Junior Tafa pulled out. I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, thankfully, we don't have to see him fight on a co main event in 2025. All right. But that being said, let's look through his UFC track record. All right. He has 2 wins, 4 losses. He lost to Muhammad Usman, Walter Walker, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and Tuco Tacos, the future GOAT of the light heavyweight division. And the thing I don't understand why the UFC is keeping this guy is because Junior Tava's whole gimmick is that he is like a fat Samoan, right? Who should be famous amongst the Aussie fans. But in reality, the Aussie fans do not like Junior Tafa, all right? Especially after his performance against Walter Walker, where he tried to jump Walter Walker after their fight because, I don't know, he just kind of tap to a heel hook, and Junior Tafa, he just didn't accept the loss. I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, that happened, and not many Aussie fans really like him as a result. And the thing is, Junior Tafa's continuously being marketed as a big named light heavyweight slash heavyweight fighter. Like, no, he is not. Uh, the only reason he's on there is because, oh, he's a fat Samoan. But he's not even fat anymore. He actually got lost weight. And he's still dog shit, though, because how do you lose to Tuco Tacos via arm triangle in the second round? I don't understand how that's possible. You literally train with Brendan Allen, one of the best, better upper weight class grapplers in like between middleweight and heavyweight. So it's very frustrating to see Junior Tafa still being marketed as a big time name. I hope the UFC cuts him at this point because, again, there's no real point in selling a Junior Tafa co main event in 2025. And I'm actually glad that he's not on the co main event for the Perth card. But yeah, Junior Tafa, he's not a big star that the UFC thinks he is. And he's been losing a lot of fights recently. Like I can name off the top of my head the Marcos Rogerio de Lima, Walter Walker, and Tuco Tacos. I think he lost like 3 fights in a row right now. So yeah, Junior Tapa, not UFC caliber, and I question why he's still on the roster as of September of 2025. All right, now up next, we're gonna go with Justin Tafa, Junior Tafa's brother, and although he has a better track record in the UFC, right? Justin Tafa just embodies everything that's bad about Junior Tafa, but make him twice as fat, right? You look at his losses. Taliesin Teixeira in the first round. Carl Williams, where Justin Tafa literally couldn't defend a takedown for shit. Jared Vendera, I don't know how you lost to Jared Vendera. Carlos Felipe, I don't know how you lost to Carlos Felipe. And Jorgen De Castro. I don't know how you lost to Jorgen De Castro. Like all three of these guys over here, from Jared Vendera to Jorgen De Castro, they're not in the sport anymore. So how is Justin Tafa even in the sport? All right. Literally everyone, Justin Tafa KO 2, right? They're no longer in the UFC, minus Austin Lane. And let's be honest, Austin Lane is also on the chopping block pretty soon. All right. And the one thing I'll say that's worse about Justin Tafa than Junior Tafa is Justin Tafa is a notorious pullout merchant. All right. He's pulled out of 5 scheduled bouts over his like what last 7 scheduled fights, right? That's not a very good track record. I feel that Justin Taffa, he does not bring any value to the Aussie fans. All right. Again, the Aussie fans hate the Taffa brothers, and the Taffa brothers at this point are just industry plants because they're fat Samoans, and hopefully we can sell them as the next Mark Hunt. Yeah, I believe that was the guy's name, but yeah. They're not going to be any sort of UFC champion. They're not going to be any sort of top ranking contender. They're barely winning against bottom feeder heavyweights. And bottom feeder heavyweights are absolutely garbage. So Justin Taffa, what is the point of even keeping him here? Like at least Junior Taffa, like he doesn't pull out that much. Like he pulled out of his fight with Ebo Aslan, I believe, but other than that, I think Junior Taffa's had a pretty clean record. Whereas Justin Taffa, he's unreliable. Like, how do you have more pullouts than UFC wins? Right? That's the one thing I don't understand because by now the UFC would have cut you by now. Like any other fighter, they would have been gone from the roster. Yet for some reason, Justin Taffa is still here as of September of 2025. So yeah, I honestly wonder why Justin Taffa is on the roster right now. All right, now up next we got Kiefer Crosby. This guy's basically Conor McGregor's training partner. That's how he got into the UFC. And so far in the UFC, he has not shown anything impressive. He has 0 wins in the UFC. He's gotten destroyed in the first or second round by everyone he's fought, like Kevin Jousset, Sam Patterson, and Taiyulaki Nurije. All right, these aren't necessarily bad losses, but it's in the consistency of how fast Kiefer Crosby loses these fights because he puts up little to no resistance in the grappling and even on the feet. All right, he's not exactly some knockout artist. He's not exactly some slick striker. Kiefer Crosby's basically a punching bag for any decent striker, and anyone who knows how to grapple will probably submit him in the first like 3 minutes of the fight. So at this point, I'm wondering how is Kiefer Crosby still on the roster? And the other thing is, Conor McGregor is not even fighting, right? If Conor McGregor was still like the biggest like UFC star that's actively fighting, I would kind of understand why Kiefer Crosby's still here, but that's not even the case at this point. The last time Conor McGregor's fought was in like what 2021 or 2022. So Kiefer Crosby, like, there's no point in him being in the UFC, right? He's probably gonna get another fight based on like how his last fight with Taiyulaki Nurji played out. But I don't trust Kiefer Crosby to win the fight because let's be honest, Kiefer Crosby, there's nothing special about him in terms of combat ability. And so far, all he's shown are just losing to guys who have some sort of jujitsu and just being a punching bag for anyone who has like half decent striking. So overall, Kiefer Crosby, again, I'm not calling you to be fired, but like, why is the UFC still keeping you in September of 2025? All right, now up next we got Dr. Nurgaje. Now, Dr. Nurgaje, I will say, like, there is some argument to keep him. All right, after all, he was a former 10-0 Kazakhstani prospect, and he's only had 2 losses so far. But my problem with Dr. Nurgaje is he has not lost. He has not won a fight in the UFC, and he's losing to basically like bottom feeder level competition, like Rafael Sequeira and Uran Saltybaliev. Actually, no, I wouldn't call Saltybaliev a bottom feeder in the light heavyweight division, but still, I don't think Saltybaliev is like the next big like Khalil Roundtree or like Alex Pereira or any of those like top ranking light heavyweights. All right. And the thing is, he missed weight for his light heavyweight debut against Rafael Sequeira, and he still got ragdolled. All right. And he's a primary grappler who just gets out grappled in every single fight because he's lost both of his fights by submission. So at this point, I'm wondering why is the UFC even keeping Dr. Nurgaje on the roster? Maybe they can use Dr. Nurgaje as a stepping stone, but again for like the next big light heavyweight prospect. But let's say Dr. Nurgaje loses, I can totally see the UFC cutting him. But at the same time, I can also see them keeping him because I don't know, he has the Kazakhstani aura, I guess, even though he's never won a fight in the UFC. So Dr. Nurgache, like, ideally he should have been cut a long time ago if I was like a manager of the UFC because he has put no resistance into his fights so far. But at the same time, like, I don't know, do you use him as a stepping stone? Right? Who are you gonna feed him to? Like, I don't really see any value in Dr. Nurgache competing at this point because he's already been fraud checked twice. And I don't think his skills really match up to UFC caliber competition. All right, now up next we got Rafael Sequeira. He has 0 wins and 3 losses in the UFC so far, and his losses include Ibo Aslan, who is an absolute scrub, Modestas Bukauskas, who's pretty good, and Julius Walker, who I also think is an absolute scrub. All right, he has not beat any of those guys that I mentioned that are scrubs. He is incapable of damaging opponents. All right, he just kind of stays in there and tries to make it a tough out, but in reality, he just like wilts in the first sign of adversity. Like in this fight with Ibo Aslan, he basically just got folded up because he got punched once, right? And he's fought nothing but cans and 40-year-olds to get into the UFC as an undefeated 11-0 Brazilian prospect, right? Like you would think after the third fight with Julius Walker that Rafael Sequeira would have been cut, but for some reason he's still on the roster. Right, I'm not confident in picking Rafael Sequeira to win any single fight. I would actually pick Dr. Nurgache to beat Rafael Sequeira, and you already know my opinions on Dr. Nurgache. So what does that say about Rafael Sequeira? So overall, why is he still on the roster as of September of 2025? I have no idea why that's the case, but he's here, so we gotta wonder what kind of dirt Rafael Sequeira has on the UFC to still keep a UFC roster spot on September of 2025. All right, now up next we got Muhammad Yahya. All right, he's also a UFC fighter with 0 wins in the UFC and 3 losses. His losses include Trevor Peek, Saul Fernandez, and Stephen Nguyen. All right, these aren't necessarily bad names to lose to, but again, he hasn't won a fight in the UFC, and he's literally incapable of harming any UFC caliber fighter in the lightweight division. And literally, the only reason he's on the roster is because he is from the UAE. There's literally no other reason. He only fights on the Abu Dhabi cards. And typically, when he fights on the Abu Dhabi cards, he gets folded up like a lawn chair and gets put away. In his last fight with Stephen Nguyen, he got dropped 8 times in the first round or something ridiculous like that. And quite frankly, I've not seen any sort of improvement from Muhammad Yahya's last 3 fights. So at this point, why is he still on the roster? I have no idea. Is this basically diversity inclusion? Because that's what it looks like to me. That the fact that Muhammad Yahya is on the lightweight roster in September of 2025 just doesn't make sense. All right. Muhammad Yahya, like, they'll probably give him one more fight. All right. If he doesn't get cut by then, like, you're going to actually have to suspect some things because, all right, sure, he's from the UAE. Like, I've rarely seen any, like, fighters, though, that went on massive loss streaks like Muhammad Yahya that are still able to keep like a roster spot. And it's not like Muhammad Yahya is like a big superstar or like a former big superstar. So I genuinely question why Muhammad Yahya is still on the roster. Like I would actually pick Anshul Jubli to beat Muhammad Yahya. And although Anshul Jubli is not on this list, he is basically on the chopping block. And if he doesn't get his redemption, he is most definitely getting cut from the UFC. So in my mind, I'm gonna say that Muhammad Yahya, like, why is he still on the roster as of 2025? He should have been cut like ages ago, realistically, but I guess he's on the roster, so congrats to him. And I don't know, maybe he does well in his next fight, but I kind of doubt that. All right, now up next we got Lukasz Brzeski. Now, Lukasz Brzeski, he has a good win, which is Walter Walker, and Walter Walker is looking like a stud right now. But outside of his win with Walter Walker, he has done nothing but lose every single fight to Carl Williams, who's absolutely dog shit, who's Waldo Cortez Acosta, You all know my opinions on Waldo Cortez Acosta, Mick Parkin, he's alright. Kennedy Nzechukwu, he's alright. And Ryan Spann, who is dog shit. Alright? And Lucas Bresky basically is a fat NPC blob who regularly loses to other fat NPC blobs. Like, why is Lucas Bresky still on the roster? And even if he wins, right, in the Walter Walker fight, right, it's very uneventful. And I low key think that that was a fluke. All right, because Walter Walker is actually a capable heavyweight with some sort of grappling. And Lucas Bresky has shown zero capabilities in terms of grappling. And on the feet, he is basically a victim against anyone who is decent. So, Lucas Bresky, right, you have a good win against Walter Walker. But since then, yeah, you haven't been doing too well, so I genuinely question why you're still on the roster. All right, who do you even fight that I'll be confident in picking you? Like, I would pick uh Alhamdi Abdel Wahab. All right, that fat. Is he from the UAE? I don't even know, but like he's just like a fat Middle Eastern man that like he shouldn't be on the UFC roster either. So Lucas Bresky, all right, I have nothing against him. It's just his performances speak for themselves. All right, I don't think he's UFC caliber in the first place, and I wonder why he's still on the roster at this point. All right, now up next we got Tim Means. Now, unlike everyone else I mentioned in this video, Tim Means, right, he's got some very solid wins in the welterweight division. Right, he has wins over Nicholas Dalby, Mike Perry, and Thiago Alves. All right, these are pretty good wins. And Tim Means at one point, right back in his heyday, was a very decent fighter. But as of recently, since 2022, he is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. And he's just been getting butchered nonstop, right? I know he KO'd Andre Fialho. Andre Fialho got cut from the UFC. And outside of that, he's just been losing to everybody else in the welterweight division. Like, he's even losing to Court McGee. All right, Court McGee should also be on the chopping block at this point, as well as Max Griffin. And those guys I do not rate at all. Uros Medic put him away in the first round. All right, fair enough. Alex Morono, another guy that I suspect will be on the chopping block very soon. Kevin Holland, he's Kevin Holland, so I guess it's all right. But my point is, Tim Means, although he was a very capable fighter at one point in his career, this point, like, what does he offer to the UFC? Right? He's not winning fights. He's like, what, 39, 40 years old. He should have retired a long time ago, but I guess he's still fighting. And I guess he's just getting ragdolled or knocked down in the first round. More free CTE for 40-year-olds here. And Tim Means, it's not a matter of like, I don't like him. I'm very concerned for his health because the longer he stays, he's probably going to get matched up with like the next big welterweight prospect, and he's probably going to get either knocked out viciously or he's going to get ragdolled and put away by submission. So I don't think it's very good for Tim Means. And at this point, I wonder how he's still on the roster as of September of 2025. All right, now up next, we got Cody Brundage. Now, on paper, Cody Brundage's record doesn't look that bad. All right, 5 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 1 no contest. But I'm going to say this. This is the most fraudulent 5 wins, 6 losses record I've ever seen. Right? He would have lost to Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and he blatantly quit in his fight with Mansour Abdel Malik, which was ruled a no contest. So overall, I think that there should be 8 losses on his record, right? And his wins, let's be honest, they're either against absolute schmucks like Julian Marquez, or he's getting fluke wins against Zachary Reese by slamming him via triangle, all right? And I'll be real, he should have lost to Jacob Malkoon. So that adds up to 9 losses, all right? And that already adds up to his actual losses, which include Mikhailo Lasechuk, Rodolfo Vieira, Cedricus Dumas, the absolute scrub that is Bo Nickel, and Eric Meconico. How are you losing to Bo Nickel and Eric Meconico via finish? Actually, no, Eric Meconico beat him by decision, but still, how are you losing to Eric Meconico? Eric Meconico, I don't feel like is UFC caliber in the middleweight division. So Cody Brundage, although he has a very decent record, that record should realistically be 3 wins and 8 or 9 losses, depending on how you would score like the uh Mansur Abdul Malik fight. So I don't think that Cody Brundage should be on the roster. All right, Cody Brundage could have been cut a long time ago, and I'm genuinely curious as to how he's able to get away with fluke no contest, fluke decision, fluke win via illegal elbows. All right, it's not like Cody Brundage is throwing them; he's the one receiving Cody illegal elbows after Jacob Malkoon essentially dominated him throughout their entire fight. So Cody Brundage, all right, he's very fraudulent, and I don't think he's UFC caliber in the first place. And last but not least, we got Tai Tuivasa. All right, he has 8 wins and 8 losses in the UFC so far. And he's not lost to like necessarily bad level of competition, but it's the way that Tai Tuivasa looks against Cyril Gahn. He just kind of got destroyed in the later rounds because Cyril Gahn's an elusive striker who like mixes up kicks very well with his punches. Sergey Pavlovich put him away in the first round. Alexander Volkov sliced him up with elbows and then eventually took him down and got an Ezekiel choke. Marcin Tybura got a first round submission. Jairzinho Rosenstrike schooled him on the feet for 3 rounds. All right, he has not won a fight since 2022, I believe. All right, that's the last time Tai Tuivasa's ever won a fight. All right, and he has not fought since losing to Jairzinho Rosenstrike in August of 2024. Right, and Tai Tuivasa, if you guys don't know, trains at Planet Fitness and orders Taco Bells before all of his fights. Right? I have no idea how Tai Tuivasa's even in the rankings of the heavyweight division, let alone on the roster. Tai Tuivasa, basically, simply put, at one point was a big, like, a fan favorite, but at this point, no one cares because it's clear now Tai Tuivasa does not take his career seriously. Tai Tuivasa does not train martial arts. Tai, Tai Tuivasa even got fatter during his hiatus from the sport, and there's just no point in keeping Tai Tuivasa on the roster unless you're gonna feed him to like the next big heavyweight prospect, right? Do you pick Tai Tuivasa to win any fight at this point? No. Like, okay, maybe he'll beat the likes of Lucas Bresky, right? But Lucas Bresky, realistically, I don't think is UFC caliber in the first place. So that don't really mean much. And Tai Tuivasa, although at one point was like a top 3 heavyweight in the division, as of right now, what has he done? Like, all he's been doing is either losing, getting fat, or just not fighting in the first place. All right, that's Tai Tuivasa over the past 3 years or so. So at this point, keeping Tai Tuivasa in the heavyweight rankings and in the heavyweight division is disgraceful, and it's a wonder as to how he hasn't been cut as of September of 2025. All right, that's going to be it for today's video. Leave a comment down below if you generally agree with my list. And also leave a comment down below if you think that there are fighters I missed on this video. But other than that, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this so we can get this channel monetized. But outside of that, I will probably see you guys later. Peace.